all you lovely people out there in podcast land. This is episode number 171 of eBay the Right Way. Today's guest is Carol Ann in St. Louis, and the date today is June 26, 2024. Announcements. I wanted to share an email between a premium library student and me, as I have the help desk service. And I think this may be helpful to many of you out there listening. Stephanie wrote, I hope all is well with you. I'm so happy for you regarding your new adventure. Reconnecting with your high school beau. What a precious blessing. And yes, it absolutely is. Thank you very much. She goes on to say, I am loving my eBay business. I have 355 listings and have not sold anything last week or this week, and I'm not sure why. I have looked at other reseller stores and feel that mine is on par with them. So I responded with, this is normal. It's called the summer slowdown, and it's happening to me too. And I sent her a screenshot of my sales graph, and there were days with no sales. This is sad and frustrating for a seasoned seller, but it's normal, and I often have to remind myself of that too. Also, please do not compare yourself with other sellers. Even though you think you are on par with other sellers, it just isn't a good idea to compare because everyone's business is different. You don't know what they are doing. Here's some scenarios. Maybe they got everything for free and don't even care about the price. So the prices are low and things are selling. Maybe they are liquidating to get rid of stuff and even quitting eBay altogether and letting everything go. Maybe their business model is turn and burn, sell things quickly at low prices. Maybe they are taking low offers just to get sales because their sales are slow too. Maybe they sell items that sell better in the summer and the rest of the year is slow for them. So comparing yourself to other sellers is really like comparing apples to oranges. There's so many different factors involved that you just need to stay in your own lane and focus on what you're doing. Stephanie went on to say, I am determined and will move forward. I don't recall if you ever evaluate stores of your subscribers, but if you do, please take a look at mine. And I reminded her that I have a do-it-yourself store critique in the premium library. It's a podcast style, so you can just do the tasks as I talk about them. But I'm always happy to take a look, and my subscribers can send me a link to one of their items, and I can find the rest and see if there's anything that jumps out at me. Also, I have a video about breaking a sales slump. There are 8 different things that you can do to jumpstart your sales. So that's in the premium library. And I mentioned the one about ending and restarting using Sell Similar, which we've talked about many times on this podcast. And then Stephanie went on to say, any advice on why my items have not been selling? And really, the answer there is nobody can answer that. eBay has an ebb and flow that really cannot be explained. I mean, sellers try to explain it on Facebook groups and YouTube videos by making assumptions and drawing conclusions that are really not cause and effect. There's just no way to prove it. eBay has a complicated algorithm with many moving parts. This is my 21st year on eBay, and believe me, I have slow times just like everybody else. So keep moving forward, keep listing, and sales will come back. Trust and have faith in the process. Also, check your traffic reports to see if your items are getting views. That will build some confidence that, well, people are looking at my items. And remember that just because you can't see progress doesn't mean it won't happen. People are viewing your items, watching them, maybe putting them in their cart to buy later, maybe waiting for a paycheck. All kinds of reasons why they aren't pulling the trigger and buying your items right now. So, bottom line, keep going. And let me know if you need anything else or any more encouragement because I am here for you. Okay, I know that was kind of long, but I hope some of you listeners will find some value in that and just some encouragement that this is normal and keep going. All right, now into the chat with the Mermaid Lady.
Hello, listeners. I have eBay seller Carol Ann with us today. And how are you doing? I guess it's afternoon and you spent the morning at the pool. I'm so jealous.
It is afternoon, and unfortunately, for the first time in a couple of weeks, I missed this morning just because some other things came up. I babysit dogs sometimes,
Oh,
and Daisy is here until Saturday, and so since she was being brought over this morning, I missed my mermaid time.
okay. Well, that's what that's what you said when I reached out to you. You're like, I'm in mermaid mode. So
Well,
that worked for me.
I am really June and July. The local pool is open in the morning for adults only.
Oh, perfect.
And so there's a group of ladies, mostly my age, not all ladies, but mostly. And we walk the lazy river and then we do this water aerobics class.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very good workout. And we call ourselves the mermaids. And
Mm-hmm.
so in the summer, in June and July, I'm at the pool from usually around 9 to 11:30 every morning.
Good
And
for
it's
you.
good for me. I need it.
Water is good. Yeah, being
Yeah.
in water is so good for your, like your energy, and it's calming and stress
Right.
relieving and all that. So I love it too.
Right. It helps me
Anytime I
so
can,
much.
anytime I can be in the water, I am.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to summer. Um,
Mhm.
I already know where you are. You are in St. Louis.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we are just about an hour apart, which is very exciting, because then I can pick your brain about shopping for eBay in St. Louis without invading your territory, of course.
Oh, hey, there's no such thing. There's plenty for everybody, I figure. I
Yeah.
don't think about it that way. There's so much stuff. I don't think about
Yes.
it. And I am one that shops mostly in my neighborhood. It's not like me to drive all the way across town an hour each way just to shop at a certain place.
Uh-huh.
I do occasionally, but only once in a while. Mostly I stick with my neighborhood. I live way in South County, St. Louis. Now the Goodwill bins are way in North County. So
Mm.
that's about, I have been there, but I don't go regularly because that's about maybe 45-minute drive each way from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly for that reason, I don't go more often.
Yeah,
But
you're
you
probably
should.
passing other thrift stores on your way to the outlet. And
Right.
what am I missing in those? They're close by. I need to go.
Exactly. Right. Well, and right now it's garage sale season, and garage sales are way, way better than the thrift stores usually. You
Yeah.
never know. I really struck out last Saturday. This is a record. I probably walked in and out of at least 10 garage sales and didn't buy one thing. It's bad when that happens.
Occupational hazard. Sometimes you
Right.
out.
But I finally hit a couple of estate sales that same morning and at least did bring home a few nice items. So it wasn't all lost. Garage sales, sometimes you strike out and sometimes you hit big. You just don't know. But the
Yes.
thrift stores wow, their prices are going up and up and up. It's as a reseller, it's more challenging all the time
Mhm.
to find items that that there's enough room to actually resell and make something.
Yeah, and I'm hearing this from people all over the country. Just
Mm-hmm.
that's the trend. So
Right.
we're gonna have to figure out how to zig when they zag kind of thing. Uh,
Right.
figure out your discount days, senior days, military day, whatever, like any discount you can get.
You bet. I hit Savers almost every Tuesday because that's a discount day,
Mhm.
30% off.
So that's good.
I rarely go in there any other day for that reason. But, occasionally you find things that they miss, right?
Right.
They can't catch everything. Here's one I found just recently. This was only like 2 weeks ago. I've started looking at linens more, like bedding, blankets, towels, that sort of thing. It's sort of a new category for me that I really didn't pay much attention to. And I found these vintage twin bed sheets that were called, oh, what is it? Something rainbow, shiny rainbow, bright rainbow. Anyway, I looked them up. One set of twin bed sheets, fitted, flat, and pillowcase. I think they sold for $75. I paid about
Really?
$5 for them.
Now,
Yeah,
are you talking about like the children's Rainbow Bright, or is this
that's
something?
it. Thank
Oh,
you.
it is
That's
the
it.
kids' sheets.
The
Okay.
Rainbow Bright.
Yes.
Right. So that was a win, and that was in Savers, and I think I paid $5 for the
Uh-huh.
three-piece set, and I think they sold for about 85. So that was a great one.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those things are out there. Well, we didn't talk about when you started eBay and what brought you to eBay.
Well, technically, I started eBay in 2001,
Mm-hmm.
which during that era, my children were young, and like a lot of moms when they have young children, I tried a lot of different ways to make a little money from home while I was dealing with young babies. And so I started then, even though I've been technically on eBay since 2001, I come and go as a seller, came and went a few different times. So I sold for a while back then. Um, I still buy from eBay, but I quit selling for a while. And then many years later, I think it was around 2008, um, I came back as a seller, and that time really gave it my best shot for a while just because of the place my life was at the time. I was going through a divorce, and at that time, eBay was my only income. I actually paid my mortgage and all my bills with just eBay income for,
Wonderful.
um, I guess it was about 2 years. I'm not saying that was easy. That was killer hard. I hardly slept, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just really worked my tail off. But also during that era, I kind of missed the auctions. I had a lot of fun with the auctions, and I used to always end them on Sunday night. And occasionally I had a few auctions that just really went off crazy. So more than huge amounts of sales, I had a few sales around 1,000, which was
Really?
very exciting. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going
Yeah.
to stop you there. We're going to talk about
Mhm.
that. What were they?
Well, during that time, okay, my mother, my parents had passed away, and this was while my children were young. And so when my siblings were going through their household and settling all that, I really wasn't involved in all that because I had young children and da, da, da. So one of my sisters, much later, what she had done was put a bunch of their stuff in storage. And so for like 10 years, she was paying for a storage unit just for all this junk that was,
Ah, that hurts.
and she wanted to get out from under that. So I helped her basically empty all those storage sheds so she didn't have to pay for those units anymore.
Wonderful.
Well, my mother was kind of a collector and kind of a hoarder, She had a lot of stuff, and it was killer work going through it all, but there were some gems in there. And a few of the items that my mother had saved for decades ended up selling on eBay for huge amounts of money, like around it. One of them was an American Girl bride doll, and she wasn't new, wasn't in perfect shape, but in pretty good shape, and was in a box. And I put her on auction, and the collectors found her, and that auction went nuts. I think she sold around 700, something like that. Among the first American Girl dolls made, and she was a bride doll.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And I at that time, I had boys, I didn't have girls. I didn't really know anything about American Girl dolls, so I had to do a lot of research, and I wasn't sure, but I was like, "I think this gal might really be worth something," and she was. Um, the other one that was really exciting, I'm sorting through all this stuff and pitching a lot of it, and I found this clown toy, and it was a clown on a skateboard, but the clown's head was bashed in, right?
That
And
sounds
so
about right for somebody on a skateboard.
well, exactly, right. So I was just about to pitch it, but I did the thing all responsible resellers do. I flipped it upside down and looked at the bottom, and there it was. There was a really nice mark on the bottom, and it said "Made in Germany." And it was Schuco. Are you familiar with Schuco? Nowadays, they're still an alive company, but now all they make is like little model cars, kind of like Matchbox cars, right? But they're
Okay.
made in Germany. But back in the 40s and 50s, they made a lot of other kind of toys that haven't been made for decades. And one of them was these clown toys, right? So I'm researching, and I found a lot of toys similar, but not that exact one. So I thought, okay, this is perfect. I'm going to throw this up on auction and see what happens. Well, it was a very, very rare toy. And even though its head was bashed in, it still went crazy on auction. And it was so many years ago, I think, but it was well over 500. I think I got something like $600 for that clown with the bashed in head.
Okay, so all the people who don't like creepy clowns,
Right.
uh, they can be
Exactly.
profitable.
Right. Right. So I do love stuff like that, and the antiques and collectible markets are really what got me into eBay in the first place. That's my preference, but I learned a lot of this I learned from you that if you want to have sales every day and keep that machine oiled, you got to start selling other things too. So now I do sell a lot of clothing, and a lot of that I learned from you,
Oh,
Suzanne.
great.
Um,
Yeah, you were a student in my school for a good while.
I
Yeah.
was, and when I first started selling clothing, one of the brands that you mentioned was Chicos
Uh-huh.
and Chicos 3, and
Uh-huh.
I just have Chicos 3, it's in my brain when I walk in a thrift store, and I find it all the time. And you were right, it does sell. Also, Chico's Travelers,
Mhm.
that sells very well. To this day, I still in fact, you know how we have bins with all of our inventory?
Yeah,
I have a Chico's bin,
great.
and that's all your fault, Suzanne.
Okay, well, and just to clarify that, I discovered that when I first started selling. And I mean, the market's different now. It
Right.
doesn't sell for as much as it used to,
True.
but it's very comfortable, easy
Uh-huh.
care, and people like it. They know their
Mhm.
size.
Right.
But just for the listeners, like you're not going to get rich selling Chicos.
No.
If you're getting it for $1 a piece, at the Goodwill outlet, or you're getting it at a low price and you're selling it consistently for $20 to $25, that's a great bread and butter kind of item. I
Exactly.
always want to clarify that because, I don't want my listeners to say, well, Suzanne said you should sell Chicos. And this is, I'm not
Oh,
making
no.
money on it. So it
That's a
all
very
depends on
good
what
point.
you're paying for it, what it
Exactly.
is, all that. I'll pick it up every now and then. I don't have as much as I used to, but anything that's heavily beaded, their
Right.
sequin tops are so
The
beautiful.
more substantial
The sheer,
pieces.
um, layering pieces that are just really striking and beautiful,
Right.
stunning jackets,
Mhm.
sequins and beads. I'll pick those up if the price is right. But
Right.
I used to just have tubs and tubs of Chico's pants and Chico's skirts, and
Right.
it doesn't move as fast as it used to. I think as more people sell it, there's more competition. So you got to look for those unique pieces to
Absolutely.
sale. Yeah.
But I just shipped a Chico's denim jacket yesterday, and it didn't have any sequins or
Oh,
fancy
really?
things on it. But you're right, it is more about bread and butter, looking for brands that probably didn't sell for a lot. I think it was only like maybe 25, but
Well, I've become a lazy shopper. I don't know if it's a smarter shopper. They say lazy people are smarter because they figure out how to do things easily and in
Mhm.
less time. But when I'm in a thrift store, that's what I'm looking for. I don't look at every single item on the rack. I'm looking for sequins, beaded,
Right,
cashmere, those thick, chunky cable knit fisherman sweaters, like stuff that's easy to identify in that mix of all those items. So,
right.
yeah, I
And
guess
also
time
larger.
efficient. Yeah, time efficient. I don't want to call myself lazy, but I guess I could be.
Oh, no, well, time is money,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Time is money, and those thrift stores are huge. You'd be totally overwhelmed if you tried to look at everything in there.
Mhm,
I very seldom look at smaller sizes. I
mhm,
just skip those racks
mhm.
and go right to the extra large. I'm getting more and more picky because I don't want piles and piles of inventory in my house. It overwhelms me. And so I've become a lot more selective than I used to be. And that's a good thing. Um, I recently had this thing happen just a few weeks ago where a guy I know called me. He said, "Hey, do you still sell on eBay?" Yeah, well, he knows a guy who has this property out in the country, and he has a shed on this property full of all these collectibles that used to belong to his great grandma.
Wow.
And I got to be
Gold
like,
mine.
yeah. And nobody had even been in there. And I was like, take whatever you want, right? Wow, that was an amazing day. So I filled my little tiny car with as much as I could handle, drove home, was exhausted, hadn't even unloaded the car yet. My phone rang, and another friend called, and her mother had just passed away. And she said, "Listen, we've been cleaning up her place. My daughters are helping me. We have about 30 bags of clothing. We were going to bring it to Goodwill. Do you want it?" Well, of course I did,
Of
but
course. And if you didn't
I
like it, you could just take it to Goodwill.
exactly. But it was very overwhelming. We're not talking about 30 items of clothing. We're talking about 30 bags with maybe 30 items in each bag.
Oh my gosh.
It was overwhelming.
It's like almost 1,000 items.
Yes, yes. And here it is, garage sale season. But for several weeks, I felt like, no, 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 I can't go to garage sales. I got to get through these piles I already have here. So I'm trying to be a lot more selective. I don't want to be a hoarder. I don't want piles all over my house, right? The death pile thing. So my house is not huge, but it is a 3-bedroom house. And so one bedroom is an eBay room. Not that eBay doesn't spill out to other parts of the house, but I try to contain that. Um, it's a lot, right? So I have one room that's all inventory. There's a desk, my computer's in there, my printer. That's where I do shipping. I cleaned out the closet. The closet is all shipping supplies. Um, and I'd prefer that it stays in that room,
Mhm.
but that's pretty hard to do, right?
Yeah, it is. You have to be intentional with your inventory. There's something called inventory creep where
Yep,
it's like dirty laundry. It just multiplies at night.
absolutely.
And
Oh,
it's like,
here's another one that I love. When you're out in the thrift store, be careful not to get junk drunk. Junk
oh,
drunk.
I love that.
Isn't that hilarious?
Yes.
Well, I
Yes.
used I used to do that. Like, you go kinda crazy and fill up a cart, and the cart's overflowing, I mean. Um, I don't let myself do that anymore. I'm very selective.
That's very smart. I was actually at the Goodwill outlet, the one near me in Illinois, and I was focusing on smalls. So
Right.
I found like a Polish pottery soap dish. It was in perfect
Uh-huh.
condition. Yeah, these are like $20, $30 items. I found a cross pen set in the box, like
Oh.
the pen and pencil. It was
Uh-huh.
20th anniversary was written on it, but it's a fine writing instrument.
Right.
Uh, I found just all kinds of little things like that, and I hardly had anything in my cart. And then there are these other resellers, that's it's there's two of them, and their carts just mounded up with stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I felt like, wow, I failed. I didn't find enough stuff. But then once I got home and was going through it, it's like, yeah, I found a leather bound, like devotional book, not a Bible, but, 52-week devotional, brand new leather cover.
Awesome.
You just have to be picky sometimes, but it's so cheap, it doesn't matter. But it was like, all this stuff was really small. That's just what I gravitate towards. And
Oh, I do
yeah,
too.
it's hard looking through those clothes at the bins. That's heavy work.
It is heavy
It's
work.
just there's no organization to anything. It could be bathing suits and winter coats, and it's all mixed together. It's like, well, don't they just have a bin with bras?
Oh
No.
gosh, no.
Or
No.
just the bathing suits? No.
Oh, no,
Don't
they don't do
be.
that.
Like, this is not very organized, but that's the thrill of it. You don't know what you're going to find, but overalls and jeans and heavy work coveralls and stuff. That stuff's heavy to look through. I guess I'm just getting weak in my old age or something.
Right, and you have to wash everything too, so
Mm-hmm.
those big things are a pain to wash. Here's a story. One day I took off driving. I wasn't even out estate sailing. I think I was just going to the grocery store and I see this sign and it said, estate sale, free. Er,
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Well, the estate sale was over and they just wanted to empty the house. Take anything
Okay.
you want. So I did. And a lot of it was glass. You know how estate sales are. They have so much of that glass stuff, which didn't really interest me too much. But I did take a few pieces. And then I said to the guy, I said, hey, do you happen to have any newspaper or something I can wrap this in so it doesn't break before I get home? And he reached over and picked up a dirty jacket off the floor. And here he said, will this work? So he tosses it to me. I wrapped the dishes up. It wasn't till I got home. That jacket was a LL Bean Gore-Tex fleece hunting jacket,
Oh,
sold for $85.
really?
Yeah. And the guy kept trying to get me to take things. Now, remind you, it's all free, right? But
Mm-hmm.
he brought me this old, I mean, really old hair dryer, like a handheld hand dryer, but it was really heavy and very ugly, all silver. And he said, yeah, it's an antique. I think this was made in the 50s and this might be worth something. And honestly, I was like, I didn't really want it, but I took it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting in the car and this lady comes running out and she said, oh, ma'am, if you're going to take that hair dryer, you should have this box too, because this is the box it came in. And it was a little wooden, like hand carved box. It was that hair dryer sold for like $85. These are my favorite stories because I didn't even pay for these things.
Right.
Anyway, that was pretty exciting. Doesn't happen every day, but it sure is fun when it does, right?
Yeah, I love the stories. Just because people who aren't into reselling, they don't understand this world. They don't get how excited we are when
Yeah.
I found this and I got it for free and it sold for
Uh-huh.
$100, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
if you get it, that's why these podcasts are fun, because all the
Mhm.
listeners are out there going, yes, I know that feeling, you know?
Right.
Um, so you go to Savers. Do you have
Yeah.
any regular Goodwills there?
Oh, absolutely. There are probably 3 Goodwills within a couple miles of my house.
How are the prices?
Terrible. So I don't go there very often, and they
Mhm.
don't even have very great sales. There's another one that I like a little better than Goodwill called St. Vincent de Paul.
Yes,
You ever heard of
yes,
that? Okay.
yes.
Um, there's a couple of those in my neighborhood, and the one in Fenton, I really like that one. So I go to Goodwill once in a while, but generally, even if I do find things there, the pricing is terrible.
Mhm.
So um, I prefer to go to Savers on their sale day. Not that their pricing isn't terrible as well, but at least on the sale day, you have a chance.
Right.
Um, Yeah, and St. Vincent's is pretty good. Actually, I love estate sales, and the estate sales are year round. You don't have to wait till summer like the garage sales.
Right.
And so I use that website, estatesales.net, and
Mhm.
throw my zip code in there. And almost every weekend, year round, there are at least a few within a few miles of me. So I probably hit estate sales more often than thrift. Are lucky enough to find anything on Sunday. By Sunday, everything's half off.
Mhm.
And the estate sale companies, some of them know me now because
Mhm.
I'm kind of a regular. um, and so I think I probably would say I prefer the estate sales over thrift stores even,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
I'm not finding estate sales in my area. I've done the
Oh, really?
estatesales.net, and it's because it's so rural. And they're going to having them online. You know,
Oh,
you have the pictures, and it's usually a 2-week window, and you can go in and look at the pictures, figure out what you want to bid on, do your research. Um, I go and pick it up. Sometimes it's an hour away, like
huh.
Springfield is an hour away, but you have that time and space to figure out what you want to buy. Because and really, I'm kind of got pushed into it because there just isn't a whole lot where I am without having to drive an hour.
Right.
We went to a Goodwill in a town called Chatham, and
Mm-hmm.
supposedly a very affluent area. Well, the thrift stores reflect that. They're like regular, women's tops, $12.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
It's not for resellers. Like, you can't make
Right.
money paying that much for stuff. Or you
Right.
look around in there for 2 hours and you might come out with two things. That's not a good use of time.
I understand. The Savers by me, there's a Kohl's store, like, literally right across the street, and sometimes I'm looking around, I'm like, I could go across the street to Kohl's and probably buy things cheaper than at Savers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They'll have things, Walmart items with the tag, and
Exactly.
your store price is higher than it was originally at Walmart. I'm like, who's pricing this stuff? That
Right.
doesn't even make sense.
Right.
Yeah, but that's their business model. So do you have specific specialty items that you always look for?
Well, I'm definitely a bag lady. I love bags. Purses, backpacks, even camera bags.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I find them cheap, and people look for camera bags, right? Um, just recently, just a few days ago, I shipped like a Dooney and Burke. I
Mm-hmm.
found that one. That was a really good garage sale. I paid 10, and I think I sold it around 60, something
Very
like that.
good.
It
Yeah.
was a vintage, like, alligator skin. It was a special, very nice
Mm-hmm.
purse. Um, but I do love bags, and even shoes. If I can find them in really good condition, I don't mess with shoes that are very worn because I just don't want to be bothered. But occasionally you can find, if you find shoes in really good condition, and I tend to focus on the brands that I personally like, maybe because I know more about them. I love comfort shoes, hiking shoes. I love Merrell, that
Mm-hmm.
brand Merrell. And so I just have an eye for them and I notice them and I already know a lot about them. I don't have to research a lot. Um, and I've sold countless pairs of Merrell shoes just because I have an eye for them, right?
Right. Yeah. The thing with shoes, this goes back to my lazy shopper personality, is there can be so many problems. Like you don't see it till you get home. I
Yeah,
forget to check, is do the twist test, make sure the bottom's not crumbling. Is there anything that's unglued that's come loose?
right.
Inside the shoe, does it have the inserts if they're supposed to be there? I mean, you
Exactly.
could sell them without the inserts, but there's all those points that you want to look at to make sure there's nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. That just happened to me recently with a pair of Keen, those Keen shoes. Those are
Uh-huh.
that's also a very popular
Great
brand, but
brand.
I didn't realize till I got home that the inner tag on the inside that shows like the size and the style number and all wasn't there.
Oh,
But fortunately, they were my size. Like, I didn't even know what size they were, but I just said, "Well, that looks like it might fit me." So I tried it on and it fit me. So now they're mine. So that one
uh-huh.
wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I forget to look for the size too because it could be rubbed off.
Right.
And then you get home and you're like, "Ugh." And I hate trying to guess. You can measure and try to figure it out, but I would rather the size be on there so I can take a picture of it and the buyer knows for sure that's what size it is. Um,
Exactly. I don't think there's a very high probability of selling either clothing or shoes without the tag. People
mhm.
wanna do that.
How many items do you have for sale?
Around 250,
Mhm.
which, it's not all that much, but honestly, for me, that's about fine. I don't really want a huge store. I want an active store.
Right.
Right. And I think that's something else that you learn after you've been doing this for a while, that it's not the number of listings that matters. What matters is, are you getting sales every day and are you listing items that people want, And so
Exactly.
I'm starting to pay a lot more attention to things like sell through rate. Not that that drives everything, but it is kind of a game changer. I do think it's worth learning
Mhm.
how to look that up. And so I keep a relatively small store. I've been up to 300. I stay between 2 and 300, usually around 250, which is fine because there's really no point in having hundreds of items sitting in an eBay store if nobody ever wants them, right?
Right. Right. And also for the listeners is looking at how many of something is active, is
Right,
available. So if you find that, cute little lovey and you go on and you look and there's like 30 available,
right,
that's a lot of competition. If you look at, oh, it sells for this much, and then you look at how many, and there's five,
right,
that's different. You have a better chance of selling it at some point. But that's when the market for the item is saturated, it's much more difficult to get the sale unless you want to be the lowest price and maybe you got it for pennies and you don't care. But
right,
even then, that's no guarantee that the buyer's going to pick you because sometimes they sort by distance because they want it right away. And you may be in Boston and the cheapest one's in California and it's going to take 5 days to get there. You may pick a higher price item that's closer to you because you want or need it right away. That happens
right.
all the time.
It does. Even in cases where you got something for free, so you don't even have money in it, you
Right.
have to evaluate whether it's worth your time
Mhm.
to even list it. which is a mistake I used to. How do I know that? Because I made that mistake over and over and over again. And I'm trying not to do that anymore
Mhm.
because I'm exhausted. Although I will say the way my life is now, okay, so about, I'd say, I think it was between 2 and 3 years ago when I decided to go back and start selling on eBay again. And what did I do? I looked for you because I knew, well, I knew that it had been a while and the market changes and eBay changes, and I needed to spend some time educating myself to figure out, figure this out again. So I was in your classes for a while. Um, but here's the good thing, I'm retired now. My kids are grown
Mhm.
and I'm finally on Social Security. And so this is a really nice supplement to my income, but I'm not so pressured as I was years ago, right? Um, so I have a store and I don't travel a lot, but when I go visit my friend in Florida, I just turn that thing off and I don't give it another thought till I come back.
Good for you.
So it's a lifestyle that I can enjoy a lot more now, right? The
Right.
other thing, what matters to me way more than how many items I have in my store or any of those other things is I worked really hard to get to this point, but I would say for at least a good solid year or so now, almost every day I have at least one sale.
Good.
Very, very seldom do I have a day with no sales at all. To me, that's way more important than how many items I have in the store, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I just try to keep that going, right? To keep the store active. Um, so I am active on eBay every day, sometimes many hours, sometimes only 1 hour. It depends on what else I have going on, right? I do list every day, but sometimes if I'm really busy with other things, I just play around with that sell similar
Mhm.
of old, and that works, by the way.
Yes, it does.
It does work. Um, so to keep the store active, to keep the algorithm happy, right?
Mhm.
Um, and find items that have been listed a long time, reduce the price. I very seldom pull them out because I already did all the work. I took all the pictures, I built the listing, I did all that. So I just keep reducing the price till it's gone.
Huh,
I
okay.
would much rather reduce the price even if it's only $10. It's better than donating it. But the other thing that I'm starting to do is I don't really have any interest in any listing for $10. Like,
Mhm.
I'm trying to have not that there aren't some in my store, but if there's things in my store that are only $10, they've been sitting there for a while, and
Mhm.
I've reduced the price. It didn't start there, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
I
even
have that philosophy too when I'm buying. Like buying, I think that's what you're talking about. Anything new that you buy
right,
is that you're going to list, make sure you have some kind of criteria in mind, whether it's how much profit you're going to make or the selling
right.
price or something.
Mhm.
Because yeah, listing is kind of the bane of our existence. Like nobody likes it.
No.
Very few people really like that part.
Oh, no.
It's a necessary evil. You got to do it. And then you're listing stuff. You're like, why did I buy this? This is
Right,
only sell for this much. Why did I buy this?
exactly. I hate listing, but if you make yourself do it every day, it does get a little easier, right?
Yeah.
Um, that doesn't mean I like it. It just means I can get through it a little faster. And clothing, yes, listing clothing is a pain, more so than other items because the measurements and photographing it's a pain. But on the flip side, shipping clothing is easy.
Mhm.
It's a piece of cake easy. So um, I've gotten used to it, but I would really like to get to the point where if I don't think I can sell it for, say, at least $25, leave it in the thrift shop,
Mhm. Yeah. I always
right?
say, oh, I'm going to leave this for somebody else. Like, this is
Yeah,
a great item, but it might be something really heavy or cumbersome to pack, and we just have a lot of choices. I'll leave this DVD VCR combo TV thing for somebody who likes to ship that.
Right. Well, and that's a category that I would kind of like to learn. I don't like electronics because I don't like to have to test them. Like the
Mhm.
DV VCR combo, uh, I see them every now and then, but then I think, I have to take that thing home and test it and figure out how am I going to do that. I don't want to do that. The other thing is
Yeah,
cameras.
you can sell it untested, but after, like, you buy it for whatever price, you
Right.
it sells, and you spend time packing it to ship it, and then they get it and it doesn't work, and then it's like just give them their money back because you don't want it back if it doesn't work. But
Right.
it's time investment on
It is.
selling thing. And that's just, everybody has a different risk level on, do I want to do this or not? Um, some people are like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. And that's great. Um, I take risks on things, very calculated, safe risks.
Mhm.
Worst thing that can
Mhm.
happen is it doesn't sell and this costs me $1 and 15 minutes of my time.
Right.
Um,
I have sold several of those little calculators, I will say. Those Texas Instruments calculators, if you
yeah,
can
those are
find.
great. Uh-huh.
Well, I'm not afraid of those even. It's like it's very easy to turn that thing on and see if it works. It's lovely to find one of those for a
Yes.
buck or 2, right? But, oh, no, electronics I kinda shy away from. My son sells them a little in my store because he's into electronics, and so, um but at one point, one of his electronics sold, and he wasn't here, and the item wasn't here, and he was at work, and I had to ship it, and I said, "Look, this isn't working. If you want to do this, you're gonna have to bring your stuff and leave it here because I gotta ship it right away."
Right.
So he did, and I gave him a shelf, and he put all of his electronics on this shelf, and, of course, what did I do? I shipped the wrong item because
Uh,
I don't know his equipment like he does, and I just grabbed something, and it wasn't until too late when I realized I had shipped the wrong item. Oh, well, live and learn. Not that I haven't done that on my own stuff
well, I was
sometimes.
just going to say, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you do
Exactly.
it. I did that recently. I had two, I think they were Lands End swimsuits, exactly the same pattern,
Mhm.
everything. One was a size 4, one was a size 18. I got
Oh,
the I got those mixed up, and
oh,
that
ouch.
I was like, ooh, yeah, you can't, that's definitely not gonna work. So I just shipped, I was like, just keep that one, donate it, whatever. I'll send you the correct one. I just ate the price of the
Most of the
item,
time, yeah,
shipping. But I was like, I'm gonna make it right immediately. Like, the longer you wait to make it right, the more upset that buyer could be, and more chance of negative feedback or something derogatory happening. So just
right.
make it right as fast as you can.
That's what I usually do too. I just tell them, "Keep it. Just keep it, and I will ship the right one today."
Mhm.
And as long as it's not something super expensive, I don't mind that. One time it was a black leather purse, and because I like bags, I have a whole bin full of them. And I had 2 black leather purses, both crossbody, very similar but different brand names, and I shipped the wrong one. So I very quickly said, "Oh, I'm sorry, just keep it and I'll ship the right one that day." And the lady was thrilled. She left very positive feedback. So it was worth it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, you've been selling since 2001, you said?
Initially 2001, but honestly, I probably have only been an active seller total for maybe 10 years because I was a seller for maybe 3 years, then I quit selling for a while. Then I came back, was a seller for another maybe 4 or 5 years, and then I left it again. Because I've worked in schools a lot. I'm a
Mm,
retired teacher.
okay.
And so even though I really didn't have a desire to go back to being a full-time teacher, but I did go back and work in the schools again for a while just as an assistant, right?
Mhm.
Which really wasn't too bad because all I had to I kinda know the drill in schools because 'cause I've done it all my life, um, but I didn't have to do all the meetings and grade papers and the committees and all those other.
I hear that a lot. Retired teachers that go back as a substitute or in
Right.
some capacity where it's not the amount of responsibility and number of hours, but you get good benefits. So kind of gotta find the sweet spot there.
Right, and I also, very carefully selected schools that are right here in my neighborhood, so there was no commute. Literally,
Mhm.
I can drive there in about 2 or 3 minutes. And first I worked as an assistant, but because, of course, the school knew that I'm certified in the state of Missouri, and so they would come get me. "Oh, Carol, will you cover this classroom? Oh, will you cover that classroom?" Well, I didn't mind a bit because, it's what I do. I know how to do that. But after a while, I started feeling like they were taking advantage of me and like, well, wait a minute. If you're going to use me as a substitute teacher, then I think I'll just be a substitute teacher. Well, so I did. I quit that job and started being a substitute. And I really liked that for a while, mainly because you work when you want. If you don't want to go to work that day, you just don't have to answer the phone. And so, like, when I was an assistant, it wasn't really full-time, but it was very close. I worked from 10 to 4 every day, Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
Well, once I was a substitute, I only worked 2 or 3 days a week. That was plenty. I didn't really
Mhm.
wanna work any more than that. So, I really liked it, but I did get to the point where I just felt kinda done working in schools, and a lot of that, it's really nobody's fault, but COVID turned the public school system upside down. Everything changed so drastically that I just found that I didn't care for it much anymore. Well, we had that one full school year where it was all remote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just well, and I was like, everybody knows how to use Zoom now because either
Yes,
you had to for your job or talking to your family or
exactly.
any of these, online courses or it's
Right.
when I have approached guests to come on, pretty much everybody knows how to use Zoom. And if you don't, it's so easy.
Yes.
It's no big deal to do it. So maybe that's one of the good things that came out of all that remote stuff.
All during the 90s when the major transition to technology was happening.
Mhm.
Um, and there was a lot of good in that. So, there was a lot of positives for education, a lot of advantages, but I felt like it went too far. Okay, so when COVID happened, every kid in every school gets an iPad. Okay, so they've all got their own iPad. Then, after that year was over with, that school year where school was remote and they did come back to school, they still had their iPad all day long. Like even little tiny kids, first grade, they would come in and go over and get their iPad. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
Uh-huh.
that's going. And so one day I was a substitute. I think it was maybe third grade or something. And I took the kids all the way across the to the other end of the school for music. Well, the music teacher was very upset with me because they didn't bring their iPads.
Oh gosh.
I'm serious. Later on the same day, same thing happened, and it was library. And I'm thinking it's library work, checking out books, whatever. It didn't even occur to me. Well, she had a little lesson or something she wanted them to do on the. Anyway, do you understand my point? To
Yes.
me, that feels like we've gone way too far with
Well, I
this.
mean, what happened in music class, like when we were little in elementary school, like you go and get an instrument and then you get a
Exactly.
and you play. I tell you what, I'll never get over this. I have some trauma from that. I always wanted the tambourine or the triangle. not some dumb thing like the sand blocks or the
Right.
sticks, or like, this isn't fun. I want some pretty twinkly bell sound. I don't want these dumb blocks.
Mhm. Mhm.
But why would
Well,
you
now you'd be looking
have,
for those on your iPad.
well, like, why would you need an iPad? Isn't that supposed to be a tactile experience where you're holding the instrument and you're working with your classmates and you're doing a song, or, playing music together?
So,
Like, how did that get transitioned to an iPad?
very good question. And my theory about that is in a lot of cases, teachers found that using that remote curriculum was a heck of a lot easier.
Hmm.
That does not mean that it's better. It does not mean that it's quality. Do you understand? And so
Absolutely. Yeah. That was more
once
of
I,
like a rhetorical question, like,
right,
how
right.
fun, you know?
Well, and because I worked in schools, literally worked in public schools my whole life and was very passionate about it, this bothered me a lot. And after a while, also the behavior of the kids is a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like that, I just found that I wasn't enjoying it anymore. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so this past school year, the one that just ended, is the first in a long time that I never walked in one school the whole school year. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
So I had already been playing around with eBay during those years when I was subbing. I'd sub a few days a week, but I was also doing eBay, and that was manageable. I could do that. But then I got to the point where I was just done. So then I really stepped up eBay because I no longer had that school district income, right? So then I needed to step up the other. And it took a while, but it worked, to the point where um, I make it work,
Well, and you've worked hard all your life, and you have
Mhm.
reached a chapter of life where you can do what you want. You can have
Right,
fun. You can go to trips to Florida and see a friend and hang out at
right,
the pool. And um, that's what we all strive for, is doing what you want,
right.
whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you. You've made it to where you should do that.
Right. Oh, I do enjoy my lifestyle now. It's so, so much better. And of course, I love the summer the most. So this time of year, I'm happy. That's all good. But it's also wonderful that one of my closest friends moved to Florida. So I go to Florida pretty regularly now. She only moved last fall. I've already been twice.
Good
I
for
was there
you.
in January, and then I went again in April, and it was wonderful. So
Good.
um,
Wonderful. Okay, well, we have gotten to the end here. I told you that would go by fast.
it did.
Um, and I know you're itching to get things done. What are you going to be working on this afternoon?
Oh, definitely eBay this afternoon for sure, because I haven't touched it much yet this morning. So I have some piles of listings waiting for me up there, and I have laundry going, eBay
Mhm.
laundry.
Well, I hope you can resume your mermaid duties tomorrow.
Oh, most definitely I will. Most definitely.
Weather
That's
permitting, we hope. So, yeah, that's good. Well, it was nice to finally meet you after seeing your name all these years on the Facebook group and on my school. And I just love doing these interviews and being able to actually meet people and see them face to face. So, thank
exactly. I feel like I know it's got to be at least 10 years, maybe more, that I've at least been part of some program that you've been doing, your group
Yes.
on Facebook, but also your courses. I love your courses, by the way. I mean, from a teacher's point of view,
Oh, okay.
they're they're so organized, and usually your videos are, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes long at the most. They're
Right.
not long. And I love that if I had a question, I could go and find exactly the video that answered my question
Okay. So, using the index.
using the index.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, just for the listeners, that every single thing I put in there, which I worked on it this morning, and I think there's 586 different
Mhm.
videos, lessons. And so there's a table of contents, they're ordered by topic. And then there's the index that's on the site where you can just look it up under the word. It's like the index in the back of a book.
Right.
I'm glad to hear that you found it was user friendly and you could find what you needed very quickly.
Oh, absolutely. And very few people do that. I mean, there's a lot of people that teach about eBay and do a very good job of it. But in terms of organization, and when I have a question and I don't want to sit and watch an hour-long video and hope I find with yours, I can use that index and usually just go right in and find what I need. And most of my questions, especially when I was first getting started, had to do with shipping.
Mhm.
Shipping is so hard. Um,
Well, it's just a lot to know. There's a lot of moving
right.
parts.
Yeah.
And I do recall you used the help desk service where you would ask me questions on email, and uh,
Mhm.
that's what it's there for. I'm so glad you used it. It was
Right.
helpful.
Right.
So anyway, didn't mean to get off in that topic, but thank you again for coming on, and we'll look
Sure.
for more of your posts on the Facebook group. It was great to meet you.
All right. Great to meet you too.
Bye.
Bye.
And now for today's trivia question. Carol Ann mentioned St. Vinny's thrift stores. Some of you are very familiar with these, others maybe not. I know a lot of new sellers listen to this podcast, so you may not know what we're talking about. So, what are these stores and who the heck is St. Vinny? Here are a few seconds to think it over. All right, first let's talk about the man, the priest, the saint. Saint Vincent de Paul is the patron saint of charities and volunteers. He was an Occitan French Catholic priest who dedicated himself to serving the poor. Born on April 24th, 1581, so over 400 years ago. He was canonized in 1737, which was 77 years after his death. The St. Vincent de Paul Society is a lay Catholic organization that aspires to live the gospel message by serving Christ in the poor with love, respect, justice, hope, and joy, and to bring about a more just and compassionate society. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul, which again is a Catholic charitable organization dedicated to the service of the poor, was founded by Blessed Antoine Frederick Ozanam in 1833. The thrift stores fall under this umbrella. Probably more than you ever wanted to know about St. Vincent de Paul, but hey, now you know. Okay, next week, my guests are a terrific trio, a reselling family that includes grandma, daughter, and granddaughter. And these ladies were just a joy to chat with. They've worked out an interesting arrangement for their eBay store as they live 2 hours apart. And they have had some major scores and sales over the years. So make sure you come back to hear about their eBay journey. And listeners, thank you so much for choosing to listen and support this podcast every week. Happy selling, everybody. Bye for now.